Hello, everyone. I admit that I had actually filmed this, I don't even know how many days prior, and I'm now just getting around to editing the video. And so this is a recording after the fact in terms of the audio itself, except for near the end. The end is actually recorded in real time, but leading up to I had to go over and re-record, or not re-record, but just provide an audio leading into the video. So this order is from so-and-so. I really, really love the Van Dieman's Natura Dualis line. I think there are two inks that I did not order, which one was the yellowy green one and the other one was, I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's about 6 colors, I think 6 or 7 inks in this line. And originally I didn't even know this was a series. My friend Rob had actually sent me a sample of Last Light Van Dieman's, and the first time I had swatched it was amazing. I loved it. I fell in love with it right away. I still have the sample. I hoard it, but I don't have to hoard it anymore because I purchased it. And I'm not going through all of the different names here that you see here because you will sort of see them as they flash on the screen. So I'm just going to talk you through until we sort of get to the swatching piece, which then you will have some nice solitude AI music to kind of get you through until my final thoughts on the dried swatches. But anyways, this Van Dieman's Natural Dualis line is their multi-chromatic lineup of like chroma shaders, I guess you could call is what they're called. And I'll probably stumble over my words and I'm not going to edit this, so you'll just have to bear with me here. But these are their chroma shaders and they are very, very lovely. My favorite being the Last Light, the Nightfall, and the, I can't remember, it's the blue one. Anyways, you'll see it near the end when it's all dried up. But I also have 2 other inks that I got from so-and-so. One was the Kitty Ink Pot Sparkling Grapefruit Wine. And the other one is the Kobe Akashi Museum Gold, which is a beautiful sort of like olivey green type color, which I thought was really interesting. And so I ordered those as well. So you'll see those swatched in here as well. But these are my tools that I'm swatching with. I have obviously my pipette, a dip pen, my muddler, and my Kakimori dip nib brush pen thing. So I'm going to now just let you be and let you watch the swatching that kind of unfolds. What you're seeing is my little swatch binder. And if you're interested in kind of, this little binder in terms of how I'm collecting all of my ink inventory is what I call it, then watch till the end because I have a little extra bonus, aka brain fart afterwards, where I show you and walk you through a little bit of the binder itself and the ink comparisons to similar inks that may be in my ink collection that I have for the Van Dieman's. But anyways, here you go. Enjoy. And thank you so much again for being here. And we will catch you in the end. All right, here it is, all dried up for the Van Dieman inks, the Kitty ink pot, and the Kobe inks that I received at So-and-So. The Van Dieman's Last Light is literally my favorite. It does look very similar to, or similar color families to like Dominant Industries Endless Summer Hydrangeas. And there is another one. I'll pull it up at the end to show you the difference in my swatch book. So it is a purple, like lavender based, and it pulls out some blues, I would say, like kind of turquoisey blues and pinks. I love it. It's such a beautiful color. And then we have Van Dieman's Nightfall. What I did notice, I guess, quickly with these inks, with the Van Dieman's Natura, what are they called? The Natura Dualis, yes, that's what it's called, Natura Dualis series, is that they feel a bit dry. So I felt like I had to dip it a little bit. But nothing horrible. Like, I feel like it would still work well on my pens and stuff like that. So just something to factor in. But I tend to use these, will probably tend to use these to paint. I will say that I did buy, the reason why I bought these three, the Van Dieman Sea Spray, the Underflow, and the Riverbank as samples versus full bottles, was because I kind of hummed and hawed and looked at so many different samples and kind of read up on it. And I just felt like the legibility of them for me just wasn't quite what I wanted to be. Whereas I knew Last Light, I've written letters and written with this ink, and it is perfect. I love the coloring. I love how I can see the different shading in it. And this Van Dieman's Nightfall, similar. I just liked how it's still legible, so I could use it for painting and for writing, which is great. So Van Dieman's Nightfall is like a dusty violet type mauvey kind of color. I almost feel like it's like the inflection or like the reverse of Last Light a little bit. It kind of looks like that to me. Slightly different tones, but it does seem to have a little bit of a green, very light, that I find myself to my eyes. Van Dieman Sea Spray is a beautiful green. It is a green with sort of like a pinky tone that kind of pops out with some dark green edging. Also beautiful color. I don't use greens a lot, even though I seem to have a lot of green inks, so that's why I also bought it as a sample versus a bottle. A bottle is a big commitment. Like, it's, you know, these bottles are 40 mils, and so I just felt like a 5 ml sample like this is more than sufficient for what I need it for. 5 mils typically in a pen, in the pens I have anyways, which are about, I don't know, I usually in a pen I can get like 1 or 2 mil fills, 2 mil being fairly generous, I would say. Like, typically, like, I find when I fill my syringe with like this syringe that I have here with a mil, it tops my the converter that I have, or the cartridge that I use to fill up in the pens, quite nicely. Then we have Van Dieman's Underflow, which this is one I really hummed and hawed about getting because I love the coloring of this as well. But it just wrote lighter, like when I looked into reviews and stuff, and it just said Nightfall was a bit darker, so I decided to go without and just order this as a sample. If down the road I feel like I really love it and I really feel like I have the need to add to my collection furthermore, then I will maybe order a bottle of it. But for now, I am on a, bottle. Let's do less with the bottles and kind of just use up what I have. And so settling for a sample. But it has some beautiful pink tones to it. Pinky purple, like lavender tones with some green, like turquoise teal edging. It's a really beautiful ink. I believe when I looked into it and was trying to put into my swatch book, in the color family, it actually said it was like a teal kind of multi-chromatic shade, and so I put it into my teal section, but when I have it with the rest of the teals, it doesn't quite look teal, so I don't know. We'll just leave it there for now. And then we have Van Dieman's Riverbank, which is a really beautiful color. It actually goes down kind of like a beigey brown, and then as it dries, it sort of releases all these colors, which is really beautiful. So it's it reminds me of a kitty ink pot actually that I have a sample of. But this one has it's got like green tones and then some pinkies and sort of like reddy hues that kind of pop out, like dusty pink, I would say. And it is legible, but why I decided against the bottle for myself was because I just didn't know that I would want 40 milliliters of this color. So I figured 5 ml sample was more than sufficient again to begin with. My son, when he was looking at it, he really liked the Van Dieman Sea Spray, and when he was looking at this, he wasn't particularly partial to this color. He felt like the color was a bit off for him, but he felt like these two were just sort of like inverses of each other, similar to how Last Light and Nightfall were. I don't know, take it for what you will. I think we are maybe like, there's like the manufacturer description of, what the ink looks like, the color family and all that stuff, but sometimes depending on the paper you use and our eyes it might have slight variations. So that's sort of how I see that. And then we have the Kitty Ink Pot, which is the sparkling grapefruit wine. I forgot to write wine in here. It's a really beautiful coral peach pinky color. I saw it and I just loved it, but again, didn't feel like I needed a whole bottle of it, so I just purchased a sample, but it's a really, really beautiful color. Then we have a Kobe Akashi Museum Gold. This one I really love. Right now, as you can tell, I'm really loving multi-chromatic or chromatic type, what are they called? Chromatic type like colors where like there's multiple colors within an ink as it dries. Just really love it. And I'm actually really liking non-shimmer ones right now. I'm gravitating towards those a bit, especially for writing, because I find that I have less maintenance for my pens. Not that I'm finding it's clogging my pens a lot, but it's just less things to worry about. Like I know that the ink will always like kind of flow. I don't have to like shake it up, that sort of thing. So anyways, back to the green. I'm also really into olive greens and gray inks. And so when I saw this one, it was really interesting. And so I decided to try out a sample, and I have fallen in love with the Kobe brand. I feel like they have really, really nice inks. I have a sample of the Doki Doki, which is a bright pink, and I also have the Kobe Himiyajisai, maybe saying that wrong, but it stands for hydrangeas, and it's almost like this lavender purple color. Their inks are beautiful, so if you can get your hands on samples of those inks, I definitely recommend them. But this is sort of what I have, and I've been painting with them. Sorry, this is a different day that I started doing this. But I've been painting with some of the Van Diemen's Natura Dualis paints, just so I can log it into my Dominant Industry swatch log book. I think it was what it's called, the ink archiving book. And I love it because it kind of allows me to play with my ink, allows me to archive it or like log it. And then in the back of this book here, which this is very left field, I know, there's a little log here that I can also log sort of the inks I've used in this logbook. So it's not of all my collection, but sort of just what I've used as I go and paint these different pages. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing these inks. These are one of my favorites in my collection, I would say. I just really love the Van Diemen inks and stuff. So anywho, I hope you have a great day wherever you are. Hopefully it is sunshiny and blue skies. We have been living under rain, and sunshine hits here and there, but a lot of rain. So we are hoping for a nicer summer heading into the rest of July and into August. Have a good one, and we will chat soon. Thanks so much for watching and being here. I just remembered that I was going to share my swatch book and show you the other inks that I have that are similar looking in some of these Van Diemen inks. So let me just pull my little swatch book over. So this is my little swatch. I don't know if you are similar to me, but I have a ton of swatching, swatch methods, I guess. I should actually do my swatch cards again, but I haven't been able to upkeep with that. So down the road, but I have like whatchamacallit? I don't even know what to call it, but I have a swatch book like this, where I basically go and I use the ink, I do a swatch of it, I do some text so I can kind of see what it looks like in writing. I don't really know like what pen I'm using. I typically only really use like medium or fine pens or fine nibs, but I tend to gravitate towards the medium or stub nibs anyways, and so usually that's kind of what I'm expecting, that I'll see more of the properties of the ink, and so that's why I tend to lean towards stub and medium nibs. I don't have a broad nib, so I don't really know what that looks like, but I anticipate that it just looks a bit kind of between the two, I guess, the medium and the stub. But then I do like an illustration so I can kind of see, what the ink looks like. So I have that sort of swatch style book. As you know, I have my Dominant Industry one, which I showed before. And then this is the one that I do, which this is more my ink, I don't know, it's like my ink inventory, I guess, of like all the inks that I've ever had in my possession. So these inks in here are, if I had a sample and I use it all up, it will still sit in here as a collection. I don't cross them out. So for example, like I have in here this Endless Alchemy Wizard's pencil. I had a lovely sample from my friend Rob, but I used it all because I loved it so much. And then I've never acquired it again because I don't really know. I actually haven't searched up where I can actually purchase this, but I have so many other grades that I'm like, I'm not going to buy a new bottle or of anything until, I use up some of the stuff, but maybe I'll acquire a sample down the road. But I keep them in here. I don't cross them out. I don't write bottle or sample. I just sort of leave it as, a log of the inks that I have. So when we talk about the Van Diemen's Last Light, let's go to my purple section here. And so these are my purples. So you can see I have Last Light right there, which again, because it's a smaller sample, it won't look as rich or saturated as the ink that I did on this little separate sheet here, but that is Last Light. And so when I say that it looks similar to, so you can see here are the other two, I would say. So let me just bring this closer up here. So Last Light is right here. We have Collection Traced Twilight Violet, and Kobe Ink Himiya Jasai, which is hydrangeas in Japanese, I believe. And so you can see the color families or the tones are fairly similar. So I would say, like, if you had one of these things, I probably don't need all three. That probably is overkill, but if you love, you know, just the slight variation, then I would say, you know, go for it. But in writing, it does look different. They all look different, actually. But if you're painting or doing anything with that, it might not be such a big sticking point. With Nightfall, I believe it's similar to, I don't actually think I have these similar to for Nightfall. Oh, here's Endless Summer Hydrangea. So this sample isn't as good of one, but even maybe against Nightfall, it sort of seems similar. So you can see there's Nightfall right there and the Endless Summer Hydrangeas. This is actually probably a better comparison if I go to this page here. Yeah, so here's the Summer Hydrangeas, and this is the Nightfall. So this is kind of hard to probably do, but they look very similar, those two-ish. It sort of has the same tones, this one of these two over here, but, and then the other ones I don't quite have the same. I would say like the Van Diemen's Riverbank, I had mentioned that before. It looks very similar to the Kitty ink pot that I have, which is Love Letters, I believe. Here's Caramel Almond Waffles. Let me look in the beigey section here. I like the browns. Yeah, so Kitty ink pot, Love at minus 37 degrees Celsius. Or yeah, minus 37 degrees. So it's sort of in that similar color family, I would say, but slightly different. But they are kind of like a beigey brown kind of color to start. And then they sort of, the tones and the shades sort of start to pop up as it dries, which is really cool. And they're both fairly legible, but I probably wouldn't use them for writing. I would say I'd probably more use them for painting myself. And that's it. That is my little, this is my little swatch book. So I do my ink. So this will kind of go in here, being my new ink day. I'll pop it in here. And then I have a log of that. And then I've have them like this, basically in Roy G. Biv order. And I just need to find a way to make some tabs so I can get to the color families that I need to quickly. So I'll either DIY those or look into some, you know, index tabs or something like that. But that is my ink logbook. Anyways, thanks so much again. Have a good day.